Welcome to the channel. My name is Jodie Knight. You can find my live portfolio over on eToro in the description below on this video. So in this video, we're going to talk about PayPal. We'll take a look at the daily chart, the weekly chart, the open options interest, and we'll talk a little bit about my price targets, my adding, my trimming, my fair valuations, all that good stuff. As well as that, we'll take a look at the general market. So that will be the economic data from yesterday, the data that's due out today, and also we'll talk about Nvidia earnings because I think that's quite important. Other than that, I'm not on camera today because I'm in my pajamas and I just can't be bothered. So enjoy the video anyway. Okay, so looking straight into the PayPal daily chart here, I love that we've had this nice consolidation on this gap fill. We did slide a bit further yesterday. That's mainly driven by the Nvidia woes and is this the end of everything kind of worries. But for the most part, this historical resistance served as excellent support at $70. So can't hate that. I do expect there to be a bit of a bounce today in the market, and pre-market can see we're having a little bit of a bounce. I think the sell-off for Nvidia was a little bit overstretched, and I don't think the rest of the market needed to panic as much as it did. They weren't disastrous. The numbers were good. So hopefully we get a little bit of a bounce here. But if we do break this level, the next support is going to be this kind of $68 range. But I'm glad that we're now out of this basing pattern, which is awesome news. Next path up though is get above this gap fill and turn this level into support, so around $70 to $50, and then move up to the $75, $55 area. That for me, I was looking at it for a trim. I'm not sure if I will trim this move here from the double bottom. If we got to that gap fill, about 31%, that's quite a large move for PayPal anyway, in a 25 bar period, 35 days, whatever you want to call it. So I might take a little bit of risk off just because it's been pretty much up in a straight line. This pullback though has been quite decent, which makes me think there is a little bit more gas in the tank. That said though, the RSI didn't cool off as much as I would have liked it to, so it's something to watch out there because PayPal doesn't typically like running too hot when its RSI gets high. MACDX Plus though, Golden Cross is still expanding. Looks like the moving averages are going to tap out at the top and ride along that for a while. The institutions, 82% there, love it. And retail completely washed out, which is exactly what you want to see on a growing stock there. The flow here, the 3 golden bars were great buy signals. I've mentioned before, when you get 3 of these, it's pretty damn bullish. It normally means a reversal's coming. And then flows kind of leveling out. We can see a re-acceleration here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a white bar and then maybe a little bit of cooling. So overall, still looking really, really bullish on the daily. But let's take a look at the weekly. So on the weekly here, we have nailed this measured move now. So this pattern is out of play, this black one. And pretty much the next measured move, which was that little purple one. But I think that was this pattern here. So the next pattern in play is a green one, but I can't see the bar. So that might be something old that I've just forgot to take off the chart. But for the most part, the largest measured move by far is this one to $95. I don't see that closing just yet. So hold your horses on there. But on the weekly chart, what do we see? We have confirmed a high. Woohoo! Love it. Absolutely love it. Even the pullback is looking pretty good. It was needed, like we saw on the daily chart. We did have this great run up. We didn't quite make it to the peak volume, but that will act again as a magnet for price. We got very close to it actually. I mean, arguable. Maybe we can kind of class that as we touched it, but this volume gap was it. Price tends to move very quickly through those voids, but if we can get above that and turn that into support, that would make me even happier. I keep asking big things of PayPal price, so hopefully it keeps delivering. Been very happy with that. The volume here did give us a solid base. It would have been really hard to break below this. It looked like it wanted to for a second here, but it didn't, and that made me happy. But the weekly RSI is kind of neutral-ish. It could run a little bit more, but I think a bit more of a cool off is probably warranted there. So whilst we might not get a sell-off, we might chop around in this area for a couple of days or weeks just to get that to slide off a little bit. But on the MACDX Plus here, this looks like we're going to get across soon, and that is super bullish. But like I said, a little bit of a cool off here is probably required, build up some energy. Institutions here not quite 50%, so definitely push over that. We'll probably get us a golden cross there and wash retail out a little bit, which would be amazing. But flow is looking good, so it's possible. Just looking at pre-market, and we're picking up again even more, so that's nice. We do have some really good data out today as well, so I think that's going to set the market up for a fade or fall, a fade or rise, sorry. My kind of fair valuation is around $100 still. There is some stuff I need to add to my model with the fast lane and the ads and stuff like that, so I think my price target is going to end up sliding higher. Obviously, we don't currently have the data for fast lanes, so anything I put into my models is going to be kind of a guess, so I'm not currently using that as my fair valuation, but the number will definitely be over $100, so that's something to bear in mind. Open options interest here on PayPal. This $73 is super strong support resistance, for this week, but bear in mind there's only Friday left on this one, so if we can push back up to that, I'd be super happy. The support below there is 71, so we're in a very tight range. This measured move here, it's quite narrow. Don't expect too much exciting to happen outside of that on a Friday, but pushing out a week. Really big support at $54. I mean, I don't see that happening unless something catastrophic happens with the markets. I'm not sure why that's such a favorable area there. But if we ignore that, then resistance again is $73, and we're kind of just chopping in this range. So not too much excitement expected next week either for this one. I think if we do have some good macro data, we could start to push back up again though. And the week after, still this $58 range. Not sure why. Maybe somebody knows something we don't. So worth keeping an eye on there, but I think it's probably a bit of a red herring. If we did get back down there, I'd probably be a super heavy buyer again. So resistance is kind of at the $72, $73 area. So that's been quite persistent over a few weeks. So we likely going to bounce off that for a little bit at least. And then if we do break, we've got $80 to contend with. So if we can get above this range, excellent. That $80 area is going to be the one to look out for. If we take a quick look at the January 2025 calls, I'm probably going to have to swap looking at the January 2025 ones to June or something at some point. This is coming up quite quickly. But the target here, still $100 in the shorter term, but then 140 to 145 in the longer term. I suspect my fair valuation might end up creeping to these levels as well. So maybe they weren't as bullish as I thought they were, but for a price target for about 4 months away, I think that's quite ambitious. So bear that in mind if you're going to be taking options out on this one. Probably avoid those high targets. But for January 2026, $95 is looking like your sticking area on that one, which seems a bit more realistic. I expect the 140, 145 is probably more accurate for several years out. So let's move on. PayPal news. Not too much exciting happened this week. I didn't check for yesterday, so don't hold me to that. But the main bit that I wanted to touch on was that PayPal defeated the proposed class action anti-steering claims. Now, this was a big deal. It caused a bit of a panic when they first announced it. You can find all of the details for this over on my website at thecraftytrader.com. But basically, the Cliff Notes version, this is excellent. No one-off Whopper bill to deal with. A lot of other financial institutions have taken a blow from this, but PayPal's dodged the bullet on this one, so thumbs up. Moving on. Okay, so economic data yesterday, we had some Fed speeches. We had Bostic in the afternoon and Fed in the morning. Sorry, my voice sounds really funny. I think I'm probably still a bit sick. But the mortgage data, what we got? meh. Applications is up more than previous, which is nice to see. But for the most part, steady Eddie is how we're rolling. Then we've got oil, boring, auction, boring. So pretty boring day to day yesterday. Everything was rolling on Nvidia, which they beat their estimates. They beat their guidance estimates. There is some Blackwell delays, but the actual call I thought was really, really bullish. They talked a lot about just how much dominance they've got really and what's coming, where they're going to be expanding. I don't know why it's selling off, to be honest. I don't invest in it, but I think if it pulls back much more, I'm going to have to take a swing on it because people must have been listening to a different call to me. Every time he said an amazing statement, the price dropped. I was like, what is going on? But it's a big company now, so it needs to be able to justify its price. Maybe that things are a little bit too overhyped, the expectations a bit too high. I don't see the fade in price coming in the next year, to be fair. I think they're going to be pretty dominant for at least another year. Mainly just the Blackwell snags. I think when they can get that rolling, they can start going properly again. But very bullish. I'm a bit more bullish on HPC miners. I initially didn't like that business model, but I'm starting to change my mind a little bit on that. I did start building an iron position just when it had that massive pullback because I thought that pullback was a bit insane. So I might have to start adding a little bit more to that. Miners today are looking okay so far this morning, but they did have a very bloody day yesterday, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But tomorrow's data here, this is going to be a big deal. This is going to go a long way into easing or compounding the fears that currently exist in the market. We've got growth rate for GDP, corporate profits, more GDP data, goods trade balance, the advanced, not super concerned with that one. It seems to be pretty consistent. Initial jobless claims, that's going to be important. Retail inventories, are we stacking up? That kind of thing. More jobs data, PCE, lots going on, and it's all before market. A lot of this really important stuff. The pending homes, the market's not really looking at that too much, and then more auction, more mortgage stuff, and then more Bostic. Bostic seems to talk a lot. Doesn't really say much a lot of the time. And then the Fed balance sheet, which is always good to keep an eye on. We want to make sure we want to see what's running off and what's not. So all in all, I think the sell-off yesterday was ridiculous. The panic was for nothing, I think. So we should see a bit of a recovery today. It is Friday though, so bear that in mind. And we are coming into September. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good September. It just means if we do have a dip in September, then it's probably a good time to buy. If you found this video useful at all, give me a like, share with your buddies, and subscribe. I know I don't sound very well still. I'm a little bit under the weather still. Hopefully be back on camera and feeling a lot better tomorrow, which is Friday. That's for Clean Spark and Bitcoin. So feel free to tune in if that's your cup of tea rather than this stock.